Welcome to the Center Mid Philosopher. This episode is brought to you by Augustus Royale Fashion. Life's not black and white, it's gray, and gray is beautiful. Check out the brand below in the link. Ladies and gentlemen, this week we've got our first edition of what I'm going to call the Mashy Pea Mob, the EPL Roundtable. Got Spencer Schulten, resident Arsenal, Ajax, Dortmund, Boca Juniors expert, and Croatian expert as well from the DC area. And then we've got Matt Sandlin from Austin, Texas, Liverpool fan, big Austin FC guy, both very good friends of mine, EPL experts. And then we, of course, have Zach Poston, my producer, as well. We're going to just kind of go through and talk about some issues facing the EPL right now, and we'll just kind of have a little round robin. So for the group, first question is, what are three transfers you guys are most excited for and watching most closely? And Spencer, we'll start with you.
Sure. I guess my first one is going to be a spiteful one because I'm watching very closely Harry Kane out of Tottenham over to Bayern. And, as an Arsenal fan, it's always really good to see your rivals crumble, especially when it's as catastrophic and abrupt as Tottenham seem to be doing things, with their owner being indicted for securities fraud, their former director of sporting being on double secret football probation, and them under the radar selling some of their players to Russia, and somehow not violating sanctions. So I'm watching that one the closest. We'll go over to you, Matt, and if there's time, I'll speak about another one.
Yeah, so being a Liverpool fan, it would definitely be Alexis McAllister and Zoboslai. They both are coming into a situation that I think they weren't going to be quite as expected to play such a big role. I know that they are big expectations, but Henderson and Fabinho going to Saudi Arabia has changed the equation for the midfield at Liverpool, and I think everyone on the red side of town believed that we were going to be competing again for titles, and this will be an interesting transition. So as a Liverpool fan, it's exciting, but it's also a little daunting in that you have so much experience and leadership leaving.
Yeah, but you're so lucky to get that hammer from Zoboslai. He's got one of the best free kicks. You'll see. I watched him a bunch in the Bundesliga. He's got a hammer. It's going to be awesome to watch.
Nice.
Yeah, I also wonder whether or not, I know that skill-wise he's there. The Leipzig players always seem to have some of them have a hard time transitioning outside of the Red Bull umbrella, and so I think that'll be another question.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed that guy Gvardiol has the similar troubles transferring over to City, so they won't be as dominant. But that guy's also kind of a beast. Matt, before we go through, just wanted to speak about the second transfer I'm watching closely because it's such a weird one for an Arsenal fan and in the community. This guy, David Raya, who's coming over allegedly for about £40 million from Brentford. He was statistically and visually is probably one of the best three goalkeepers in the league, if you can believe it. I mean, he's up there with Alisson, up there with Ramsdale. And the fact that Arteta is so obsessed with competition, it's interesting to see what that's going to do to Ramsdale because he's such a vocal leader in the locker room. He just came out this morning with a very interesting piece in The Guardian saying about how his performance down the stretch yesterday or last season was attributable largely to the fact his wife had a miscarriage, some other personal things. His brother is gay. And I just don't want to see our really tight locker room get divided by what seems to be a lifelong obsession of Arsenal's goalkeeping coach with this guy, Raya. So let's see what happens. I'd personally like to see us spend the money on someone to replace a now injured Gabriel Jesus, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was listening to a podcast this morning about that very topic, and some Arsenal fans were saying, why would you spend all that much more money just for a goalkeeping competition, really? Like, do you really need Ramsdale to just be that much better? Like, he's pretty solid as is. Why wouldn't you use that to, shore up another key player? So that's a good one. Zach, how about you? Who are a couple transfers that you're really keen to watch?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Harvey Barnes at Newcastle. I thought he was always a player that had a little something extra. I thought he stood out on the team, that he played for.
Sure.
Can he ride with that kind of Newcastle money and kind of take that next step up, like Newcastle is hoping to take that next step up? Kovacic for City, I think he fits that mold. Obviously no Gundogan, so not the same profile of player, but I like the quality of player with Pep. I think it'll be seamless transition. Does he take the Gundogan role? Is it some sort of hybrid that we haven't seen? And then I'm going to end off, let's see, I got a couple on here. I'll probably go James Maddison at Tottenham. I thought, maybe not so much last year, but the years before, he was kind of projected to make a big move. Has that little something extra special. A lot of Leicester players on my list I'm learning. But I'm excited to see what he does in the squad. Will Harry Kane be there? Will he not? I guess we'll find out. But I think those are the three that I have kind of bookmarked down to kind of check this season.
I'll go ahead and I'll give mine. So number one is Sandra Tonali. I can't think of many Italian players that have really thrived in the EPL. They don't seem to do that well when they leave. It's rare. So that's definitely going to be one. If I'm flipping through the channels, that would be the first one I'd stop on just to see how he is doing.
He's got great hair too.
Great hair. He's
great hair.
Handsome fella. But no, and I hope he does well. I mean, I like him as a player, but it's just kind of wild that he left AC Milan, which is very much on the rise. And of course, he's got that Newcastle money, the Mohammed bin Salman money now. But we'll see how he does.
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, that's right. Number two, I'd have to say Mason Mount to Man U. In that, I'm just intrigued. In that, I got nothing against Mason Mount, but I've never really seen all that much from him that made me think that he was anywhere near deserving of the money he got there.
Yeah.
He hadn't done much in the preseason. I know it's not really much to go off. I mean, I wish him well. I hope he does well. But
But how much of all those attacking players at Chelsea and their inability to produce was them, or if you're looking at it broadly, a lot of those guys have the same kind of MO. They all were talented and then went there, underperformed, and then so I think it's great because we'll get to find out.
Yes, that's exactly right. Will we say, is it a Chelsea problem, or was it he just is not as, I mean, I hope, and I think it probably was a Chelsea problem where they bought 75 players and made them all compete with each other, and you get once every 19 games you get a shot to shine, but we'll see.
Well, they have like 35 wing players. It's impossible to understand how people fit in. But he's one of those players, man. Like, I can't see him in anything other than Chelsea blue. You know how you just only see one player in one color? I can't even look at him in the uniform. Yeah. I can't. It doesn't process.
I know it's going to be weird. So that's one I'm really interested in. Another big one, Spencer, for you, Declan Rice. And I would ask you, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being as excited you could possibly be, how excited are you about him?
Well, I'm a 10. Here's why. But I think Arsenal fans need to be patient with him. His game is box-to-box midfield. He can drive the ball forward. Is something we really need to progress through the press. The issues with Declan Rice, if you look at him visually, he doesn't pop like a Rolls-Royce player. He's more just a smooth guy that's going to get the job done. And watching West Ham last year and in the position he played and protecting the back four, you're not going to see enough of him to know what he can actually do. So I'm really excited. I think I would just tell the Arsenal community that his adjustment's going to take some time into the system. It's not just a tactical change from West Ham. It's a fitness adjustment as well. Arteta's team is much more fit. They play faster football than West Ham. It's going to take him some time. And I watched him in both preseason games so far that I've been able to attend, and he just looks a little bit off it. But that's not anything to worry about. I'm 10 out of 10 gap for it. It's going to be great.
Yes, and you were there in person, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you're right. So I've heard the famous phrase Tony Adams thrown around a little bit about him, which is a dangerous comparison because but I mean he's a 6, right? He's not a 10 or an 8. Like he
could be a 6/8 though sometimes, depending on where he floats in that system, depending on who he's playing. Sure. I would expect him to start with Partey and Odegaard day one as midfield. He
could be a fantastic partner to Odegaard, because Odegaard could be a little bit more of the flashy, to your point,
that's right,
pop, whereas he's going to be a little bit more of your steady Eddie, kind of your Michael Carrick-ish type player, maybe, to Scholes.
Don't ever make that comparison.
Yeah. I knew you'd like that. I would say another one that's been, now, as of 48 hours ago, very interested is Rasmus Haaland, which it also speaks to like the astronomical sums these clubs are playing for people right now.
92 million?
Yeah, and he's like done nothing really. Like he's got some promise, but people were joking that like he looks like Erling Haaland, so they're like, just give him $100 million. Like, and he's young, he's only 20, he's tall. I think he's like 6'5", and I mean I think he's shown some promise, but like talk about a big gamble. I mean he could be huge, but like he hasn't really done a whole hell of a lot. So that's definitely another one that I'm watching closely.
Yeah,
it's pretty amazing to think what you could
go ahead.
What you could have gotten Haaland for, 3 or 4 years ago.
True.
Versus somebody like, while being productive and having all this upside that of course now is fully realized. But to see this guy who's everybody's, betting on the come here with him, and it's, but you know what? It's very united of them to go ahead and just throw money at the problem and see if it works.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, they are replacing the undefeated Wout Weghorst at the number 9 position there. So if you enjoy paying $9 million per goal, then Højlund's your guy so far.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, no, that's good. So, all right, guys, another one is similarly, what are 3 storylines that you're following closely this year? Spencer, I'll start with you.
3 storylines. Is that everywhere or just only in the EPL?
EPL.
So I'm excited. Well, not excited. I'm following. I mentioned earlier Tottenham before is something I'm really interested in because I had a lot of people in my ear in the downturn of last season from April to May, making fun of Arsenal's collapse and saying how we've bottled it. But I would say that at least we had something to bottle. Now we have a situation where you have probably the nicest stadium in the Premier League that's going to be filled with a team that's not fit for purpose, that's in transition. I'm really excited, though, just because I really like this coach and what he did at Celtic. I'm really interested to see what Postecoglou can do with that team because he's the antithesis of the previous Spurs managers in Conte and Mourinho in that he's kind of like sarcastic, very direct, very Australian in a very, very good way. And so it's a shame because he got his big shot at the managing, later in his career. I mean, he's like over 60, I think. And it's a shame because they're going to fail, and I hate him to be at the helm when that happens. But let's go. The lawyer and me can't wait to follow this insider trading case against the owner. It's going to be great.
Sticking to the soccer field, I think. I think it's going to be really interesting to see. You're going to have teams, somebody's gonna not get in the top 4 again, and we're gonna see a lot of there's a lot of money being spent. There's 5 teams that for sure believe they should be in the top 4, and then when you include Newcastle now,
for sure,
then you have obviously Chelsea and Tottenham, who we're just a few years removed from them being contenders slash, top four almost guarantees. So when you include that, you got 7 teams. There's going to be a lot of consternation among the fans, among the owners, and I think we're going to end up seeing some kind of panic moves somewhere along the way that'll be interesting to see. Another thing that I think is interesting is just seeing if Brighton, Villa, Brentford, this kind of next wave of teams can take the next step. I mean, they've got their models, which is pretty cool to see them do it in a different way than other than just going and overspending. Southampton had that for a long time, but they never really broke through, other than maybe being like a top 7, maybe a top 6 team, and obviously have fallen off the map. So I think those two lines, that there's just a ton, I would say like in the top 10 or 11 teams that will be interesting to see. Compared to maybe some years past where it wasn't that competitive outside maybe the top 4 or 5.
That's a good.
I would also sort of, to build on that point, I think it's a really good one. I would pose to this group, do we think the EPL is broken now as a result of all this outside state investment that seems to be driving up contract values, but also what I think gets underreported, and I don't listen to all the podcasts out there, but you have teams that have, for example, in Chelsea, you've got the Saudis giving a $20 million investment into the hedge fund that end up buying Chelsea. So they get basically a farm system to offload their largesse for reasonable prices. Whereas the other non-state-owned teams like Arsenal, if they want to get rid of somebody, Pepe, no one's coming from an affiliated entity with state-owned money. And you're really going to start to see some of these teams with that state investment really be able to drive the price and sort of manipulate their own images and books. And I wonder if this is finally the year that the English FA or the EPL or someone steps in and starts to bring in maybe an independent regulator or something to keep this from going off the rails eventually, which is starting to look like it already is. Sorry.
We did an episode on, we called it the Barbarians and Sheiks at the Gate. A little riff on the Barbarians at the Gate, KKR. And even since we've done that episode, it has completely gone off the rails, so much so now that I'm convinced MBS, Mohammed bin Salman and Sheikh Mansour and company are going to just buy up all the EPL teams so that they can send them all to the Saudi League. You know what I mean? It's almost it's like, because there was an article in the Athletic that basically said, does Mohammed bin Salman basically own Chelsea now? It's getting really incestuous, and to your point, Spencer, yes, something is going to have to be done. And on that episode, we posed the question of what's going to happen when you let a lot of these barbarians and sheiks into your house. Well, we're seeing what's happening, and so I'll just jump right to mine. One of the storylines I'm following is Man City and the financial fair play that they just unabashedly break, ridiculously, and they just don't care. And they're like, so what? You're going to challenge us? We'll just tie you up in courts for a decade until everyone forgets it ever happened. The banners are still there. What are you going to do?
You pay a little fine. And
whatever.
It goes away.
10 million, and I don't care. Just
Then you hire Lord Panic to represent you at $5,000 an hour, right?
That's right. So that's one of mine that I'm following. I would say another one that changing tack a little bit, an interesting storyline I'm following is Luton Town. Just obviously, what a cool story. But something that's so wild is their stadium only fits barely over 10,000, and they've had to postpone games there because to get into the stadium, you actually have to walk through some guy's den, literally. So for people to get into the stadium, they have to walk through some guy's house. And so I just think that's one. Whenever Luton's on, I'm going to watch just because I'm just curious to see how this unfolds. And then I'm also, probably my third storyline is this the year that Erling Haaland wins Ballon d'Or, and finally the torch is passed from the Ronaldo, Messi years to Erling Haaland, or is it him or is it Mbappe? I don't know. But how about you, Zach? What storylines are you following?
Y'all took some of the good ones there. Let's see. I think I'll probably just ride with two. And I kind of titled it, "Did Kane wait too long?" It seems like every summer now he's been rumored to Bayern or Chelsea or Man U, and I get the feeling that he just might have waited a year or two, too late to move. If Tottenham starts to have a bad season, he's still on the team. Do they kind of turn on him? I think it would be dumb for them to do that. But fans and their passion, you never know. Where is the big move for him? Right? Is it Bayern? With Real and how they're spending and Mbappe rumors, I don't know. I just get back to the point of maybe he waited one summer or 1 year, 1.5 years too long to make that move. And then I just put on here, Chelsea can't be this bad again, right? They have too much talent.
We can hope.
Yeah.
Right,
we can all hope. Oh, I could definitely hope. But they have way too many good players. Pochettino, we've seen what he can do in the Premier League. Very consistent as a manager. Is there resurgence fifth? Or is there resurgence, do they make a push, or is that maybe something on the docket for next year? But those are some of the things that I'm looking forward to as the season starts.
Nice. All right, cool. And then one of the last questions for the group, kind of piggyback on what you were saying, Matt Sandlin, with there being a lot of people vying for that top four, Champion Leagues eligible. If you had to bet your life on one of these teams not making the top four, Man U, Chelsea, Newcastle, Tottenham, which one of the top Liverpool, which one would you say is not going to make the top four? Spencer, I'll go with you.
Okay. So it pains me to say this, but I think Liverpool are going to be back this year. I think they've invested smartly. I think you can pencil them in for now, unless something catastrophic happens with injury. I think Arsenal will be back. I think Man City will win the league again. I think Arsenal will finish second. I think Liverpool will finish third. And then the fourth one is interesting because I expect Newcastle to jump on last year and finish fourth. I think Manchester United will finish outside despite all that investment. I just don't see enough out of that team. Ten Hag is a great coach, followed him through the Eredivisie and his career coming up through Utrecht and Ajax. He's a fantastic coach. That team doesn't gel right. They haven't fixed their defense. I still don't think they're going to make it just yet. So that's my personal and slightly biased opinion.
No, that's a good one. That's good. What about you, Matt?
I really think it's the same. I mean, I think it's down to Newcastle and United for that fourth spot, and I have more faith in what Newcastle's doing than what United's doing. I think United's doing what they've always done. They're throwing money at a bunch of players, and doesn't always seem to be a coherent strategy for their player acquisition. So I would go the same route. I'd say Newcastle fourth.
And an interesting twist on that, I think, if you could consider Villa a dark horse, I think under Unai Emery last year, they showed a lot of promise when he took over. I think their signings have been fantastic. They've been really smart in how they built their team up for this season. So much so that I would expect, hot take, I think Tottenham finishes outside the top 10.
Yeah, nice. Oh, that's an interesting one. How about you, Zach?
I love the Tottenham shout. Yeah, they can finish 10-11. That's fine. No worries there.
Yep.
I got City in another tight race with Arsenal. Spence, I think the one question mark that I have about Arsenal, and if they can kind of get over the top, is Jesus, is Havertz, and I guess it's Eddie Nketiah. I might be pronouncing that wrong. Is that enough at the tip of the spear?
No.
Yeah, I lean no. Like that's kind of the question mark that I have at that team. Although I like him as a player, I don't know if Kai. Arteta's cooking something up. I don't see it yet. As far as just the tip of the spear.
Look, don't sleep on Trossard though, because honestly, with Jesus getting hurt now, out 5 to 6 weeks,
yeah,
I think you can pencil in Leo Trossard to start at striker as a number 9. I think he's earned it. I think he's going to get it. I don't think Eddie gets it.
All right, and so those are my 1 and 2. As far as 3 through 6, it's pretty difficult for me. I'm gonna go Chelsea with the 3rd spot. Something tells me I've always been a Poch fan. I think he has enough talent there to figure it out. Maybe I'm a year or two early on it, but I'm gonna put them there. I'm gonna put Liverpool 4th, and then I have Newcastle 5th, Brighton 6th. Villa 7th, and Man U. Man U is the team that falls for me, and Tottenham. Man U and Tottenham fall for me at 8 and 9. A little bit of wishful thinking. I'm not exactly the supporters of those clubs, but I think with their current makeup, what some of the other teams are doing, that's kind of how I see the year playing out.
Very cool.
Nice. I'm really hoping I just wish someone could unseat Man City now too. Just because as we're talking about, they're cheating. I mean, we just lay this all out about like the financial fair play. Well, they won the Champions League and the Premier League. I mean, so I'm really rooting for Arsenal's, Liverpool's, whoever it is can really contend. But yeah, I mean, if I had to bet my life, I would probably say it's Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, and then that 4th. I mean, God, it's a toss up between Newcastle, Man U, Chelsea. I mean, God, it's a tough one. But I definitely am rooting. I love Brighton. I really loving their success. I'm hope you're right. Spencer, Aston Villa sneaks, gets higher and higher in there. Certainly, Europa eligible. But it's going to be interesting. And Matt, to your point, yeah, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and it'll be interesting to see who doesn't make it. Well, guys, we're right at our time. This is awesome. Thank you so much for doing this, guys. I owe you big time.
Sure.
Hopefully y'all enjoyed it.
No, thank you.
Absolutely.
So this is the Mashy Pea Mob, the EPL Roundtable, and hopefully we'll make this a recurring thing if y'all are down for it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome.
When Matoma signs for Arsenal, let's do it.
You guys surpassed wildest expectations. You guys crushed it, and thank you so much. And
thank you.
All the best to your lovely and beautiful wives. And
cheers.
kids.
Same to you.
All right. See you guys. Thank you.
Matt.
Later.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate you.
See ya.